Welcome, everyone, to those of us who are here on the platform live. Welcome. Strap in your seatbelts. We are ready to continue with our series, and it's the Entrepreneurial Excellence series. And this week, we are now going to extend to part four. Episode 22, which is part three, really focuses on the basic discipline, career pathing, and motivation. And I think, Ed, you just touched on motivation the last time. There's so much to get into there. And yeah, so I look forward to what you have prepared for us this week, Ed. Welcome to you, Ed, our our head honcho, our head storyteller. Every week I find a new adjective for you, new pronoun for you. So, Ed, over to you.
Thanks, Jacques. Lovely to be here again. Yeah, we're going to continue to talk about, well, the topic was staff retention, staff acquisition and retention, because staff is really one of the key areas in any organization. If we don't have staff, um, well, we probably don't have too much of a business. The areas we did talk about last week, yes, we talked about communication, about finding the right people, about getting the right people, as opposed to necessarily the best people in the right slots, and many other things. We're going to continue today with two topics. The one is motivation, and the other is demotivation. Now, just before I start, I must make a warning. I might disappear from the scene because we are due to get load shedding somewhere close to now. And if that happens, I will disappear and sign back in on my phone. So if you suddenly see me as missing, then just stand by. I will be back. Okay, so in terms of motivating staff, some research done many years ago by an organization called Wilson Learning, and Wilson is a household name in training worldwide. Um, they did a series of a whole research series, and they came up with a concept as a result of that. And the concept was based on John Wilson, the founder of Wilson Learnings, saying that truly we only learn by experience, or humans learn best by experience. But sadly, we do that very badly. So we don't even learn very well by experience, but that's the best way of learning. And so now, if you're in that kind of environment, how do you motivate yourself? Well, they came up with a 5 step model. And the first part of the model was what is what is the big picture? What is the brand? What is the vision? What does the organization stand for? Not in terms of slogans or in terms of these uh, enormously well crafted and beautifully enunciated vision and mission statements that appear on the walls and on the literature, and that nobody in the organization could recite if they tried to. And I've tested that on many occasions. Um, those don't work very well. Those are for posters. What does work very well is where everyone says, this is what we do. So, let's take a couple of organizations and take the brand of, let's say, the SPCA. Now, if you ask anyone in the SPCA, or probably most of the public, what does the SPCA do? The SPCA is in animal welfare. Nice and simple. Yes, we know that they do education, we know that they do sheltering, we know that they do sterilization, we know that they do euthanasia of surplus animals. Um, we know that they do an awful lot of things as well. They act on behalf of the government as animal inspectors, and they have all sorts of divisions for wildlife and everything else. But essentially, they're in animal welfare. We know what they are, and their people know what it is they do. Let's look at another well known organization, the Gift of the Givers. Now, is there any doubt about what the Gift of the Givers is? Um, its name, in fact, is its brand. Uh, it's gifts given by people who give to Gift of the Givers. And they provide facilities and succor and um, food and shelter and everything else to people in crisis. And everybody knows that. And so we can go around the picture. Some while ago, we would know what the post office does. Nowadays, I'm not sure anybody knows what the post office does. Certainly doesn't do very much post. Um, but there are organizations where we know very clearly what we do. Uh, Griffin Enterprises is one. We know what Griffin Enterprises does. Griffin Enterprises Griffin Foundation is there to provide career pathing for disadvantaged students, disadvantaged youth, to provide them with solid career grounding. But not every organization has that facility. If you asked many employees of, pick an organization, any organization, what is it that we do? And they will come up with often a range of answers that are vastly different. And again, I've experimented with this in some quite small SMEs where there may be only 15 or 20 staff. And you ask them all to put down what we do, and you get 15 different answers. That's because the brand and the vision have not been well communicated to everyone. And I mean everyone, right down to deliveries and contractors and cleaners and people who only have a peripheral connection to the company, like their auditors and their lawyers and similar. That message has to be clear. This is what we do. This is the heart of our business. This is why we exist. And it can't just be some airy fairy statement. It's got to be something that lives in the mind of the market, not just in the mind of the management. And all too often, we do see brands where the brand in the mind of the management is something of wonder, and the brand in the mind of the marketplace thinks something totally different of them. I think there's a certain power generation and distribution utility that might fall into that category right now. If you look at their mission and vision and brand statements, they probably wouldn't equate to the popular feeling in the market around now. So, first of all, get the big picture clear in people's mind. That was the center of the circle. Um, And then the second part of that was to say, what is my part in this? Where do I sit? Um, how does what I do fit into this? So, what's my part in it? Where do I fit in? What does my division, my business unit, why are they here? What do I what part of that grand vision do I and my business unit, my colleague, play in that particular scenario, that big scenario? And again, it's very important because sometimes your part in it looks very different to the big picture. There's an old joke about a couple of people who played in the orchestra, and those were two of the players who played percussion instruments. The one had a tambourine and the one had a triangle. And they were sitting here. One of them had gone and listened to the entire orchestra and came back very excitedly talking to his friend and saying, things are so different when you listen to the whole of it. And his friend said, what do you mean? And he said, well, you know that part where I go ting, 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 ting? And the friend said, yes. He said, the orchestra is going boom, 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 boom. So, his part doesn't look like it's the same as the entire orchestra. Now, that's a silly joke, but the many organizations, if you work in, let's say, a motor dealer operation, and your part of the operation is sweeping floors, how's that contributing towards the vision of selling, of thousands of happy customers driving this brand of motor car? Very clear. You need to make very clear what your part in the story is. And then the third um, part of this, the second sector in the circle, is clear expectations. What do you want of me? What is more than my job description? What do you expect of me? I need to be very clear on why I'm getting paid. What do I have to do to perform? And this is often one of the most um, difficult and delicate parts of a business. That if your expectations are not spelled out well, you will often have the situation where you will grossly disappoint your manager and have people frowning at you and not know why, not understand why. Um, and all too often, the job description is a little bit too bald, even if it has key performance indicators in it. We all know that in an environment there are straight measures, KPIs, performance indicators, and if you got 100% on your KPIs, you still might not be a favored employee because there might be other areas where you fall down which are not in your job description. Ability to relate to others, um, uh, compliance with management wishes, uh, ability to help others, not hinder them, ability to uh, help others to grow. These might all be intangibles, and we're going to talk a little bit about those. These might all be intangibles, and so you don't have clear expectations of what your part in the work is. The fourth part, or third corner of the quadrant, is feedback. How am I doing? Open and honest feedback. It is one of the most valuable things that you can do, where you give both formal, in terms of these are how you're meeting your KPIs, and informal feedback. In other words, this is what people think of you. Not only the management, but also some of your colleagues. So feedback. And frequent. There's no sense in doing an annual appraisal because then everyone's on their best behavior just before the annual appraisal. They maybe have seen the appraisal sheet. They work towards all of the tick boxes on the appraisal sheet and get a great appraisal, and everybody hates them. So, feedback, vitally important. And then the last um, part of this is rewards. What's in it for me? So that is not just salary. That's not just promotion prospects. That is a whole combination of what the benefits of working for this organization are: pay, support, family support, um, mutual friends, um, clear relationships, clear direction, growth, personal growth, um, encouragement, vibes, all of those kind of issues. It's much more nuanced than simply an appointment letter which says your pay and your bonus and your leave and your sick leave and the rest of the things. What are the real rewards for being here? And many people will seek out a job where the real rewards are things like growth, things like the ability to learn, things like encouragement, things like camaraderie, things like belief in what the organization is doing from a sociological or political viewpoint or ecological viewpoint. Uh, a lot of those will be the rewards of the business. And we underestimate the power of those rewards which are not monetary based. So those really should be made quite clear. So there you have it. You have, if you can picture a circle with an inner circle in, the inside circle is the brand or vision. The one quadrant of the circle is what's my place in that. The second quadrant says, what does the company expect of me, not just in terms of tasks? The third is feedback. How am I doing in the broader sense? And the fourth of that is rewards. What's in it for me, not just the monetary rewards? It's a clever model. It's been around for a very long time. It's been modified several times, including by Wilson Learning. But I just love that model because it's so clear of where you can go to get the staff comfortable, to take away their worries, to give them a view of the future, to make them proud of what they're doing, and to tell them how they are performing. Not just in the terms of the performance, but how they're doing, how people regard them.
Yeah, it's really excellent, Ed. Just to say, when you gave that illustration of the percussion players,
Yeah.
I play percussion. I don't know if I ever shared that with you.
Oh, no, I didn't know. Yeah.
And that whole thing, waiting sometimes for 4 bars of music, and during the fourth bar of music, hitting that triangle ting, and that's about it. And however, that is so critical. It adds flavor and all of that, but not wanting to be the person who's drumming away or the bass guitarist or whatever the case, but that boom ting just had such resonance, with me. And what is my part in this is such an important. I think out of the not out of the 5 it's the most, but I mean that particular aspect is sometimes we look at relatively what others are doing and we aspire to do that rather than focusing on understanding the role you play and doing that well, in amongst everything. And it's quite interesting that that we normally say, well, have clear division of responsibilities, etc. But then also there is the perception of what it is I'm doing relative to what the rest of the team. This is not as sexy as somebody who's probably got a platform is seen to be high level and so on. So anyway, I just thought that rather than waiting until the end, just to share that with you. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jacques. Yes, that's remarkable that
Um, Probably victim of load shedding. But hey, this is how we need to roll. This is how we need to be flexible and adjust to circumstances as best as we can. And to be succinct, it's basically this 5-step model that Ed is sharing with us is just, it captures my imagination, you know, always. Um, and why? It is my interest is always, what do I do with this? And so really, so at the sort of core motivation lies knowing the big why. What is the big picture that Ed has already summarized? But while we're waiting for him to come back, is to talk about this. Is like, what is the vision and the brand, and knowing what the organization stands for. Um, and then I've mentioned the what is my part in this. Doesn't matter what it is you do in your team and your organization, you have an important part to play. And I often think about the example of somebody as somebody who's cleaning in the hospital, sweeping the hallways, and person walking by them and asking him, all right, so what is it that you do? She could proudly say, we save lives. She was sweeping the floor, but she could fit into the overall objective of a hospital, and that is saving lives. And no role is either too big or too small for that. Clarity of expectations. That big question of what is it that I have to achieve to perform? We don't spend enough time to understand that. And what influences that is when we're so desperate to either keep a job or to fill a job that we are too happy to be engaged in the job. And we never stop to think and to ask and to clarify what is expected from us in terms of achievement. We get in there and we do our very level best. We believe we work hard, and then we wonder, why do the rewards not come? Why does the advancement not come? Because you are not achieving what is expected of you. You never understood. You're doing all the things necessary, but are you doing the right things in order to meet expectations? And knowing that needs to be so clear. And sometimes we sit in a team and in an organization as an entrepreneur giving feedback. Do you know your team around you wants to know that they are meeting expectations themselves. So this is where you give feedback. This is what once the expectations have been clarified, but the ability to then say, okay, this is how I see you are performing. You're either exceeding my expectations or you're not. But then whether it's in a formal or informal setting, doing it in a way that energizes, and that's the important thing, doing it in a way that would encourage continued effort, continued creativity, innovation, and application in terms of meeting expectations. And this is how your organization and your business will flourish. If every single member in a team know what it is that they ought to be doing, and what the expectations are within those roles, and they follow those roles, and providing feedback, it's such opportunity for growth. And then it's always a case of what's in it for me. We cannot escape that. Some people who are very altruistic, as it is mentioned in the example, the Griffin Foundation is something that I'm involved in, is, it's, we are a non-profit organization, one of the things that I do. And you would say, well, okay, you guys are philanthropic, you do things for others, there's no bottom line to price and profitability and all those kinds of things. And then I just want to say to you, well, actually, the what's in it for me while I do this is that feel-good factor. I feel good. You know that glow you get when you do something good for somebody else and you see you've actually supported somebody? That fuel that lights your fire in terms of just doing more of the same. Yes, that's what you get out of it. Everybody always has an expectation to get something out of what it is they're doing. And so the rewards are not just monetary, or status symbols, or the things that inform our status symbols. That's not just what we are talking about here in terms of asking, what is the real reward for me being in it? And it kind of loops back into big picture, aligning yourself with the purpose, the big why of a company. And, we all know the adage. People don't often buy because of what you do and how you do it, but generally attracted to why you're doing it, as just sort of the general principle. And it's been such a wonderful journey, us being on this series with Ed, talking about entrepreneurial excellence. And I know many people, when they listen to this, say, but you guys are talking about management and so. Yes, we tend to think it's the systems, the money, or the equipment, or some groundbreaking technology that sets us apart. In all of this, even in the world of artificial intelligence, people make the magic happen. And if you want people to continue to make the magic happen, why not invest in them? Why not motivate them, inspire them, ensure that the organizational growth, the business growth, is based on a win-win basis? Everyone wins. There's opportunity for growth and opportunity for reward for everyone. It's not just sacrificially for the business, but paying attention to these things is what we are saying. This is where the magic happens. So unfortunately, Ed is not concluding with us this afternoon. So thank you, everyone, for being part of our talk today. Ed did get through the 5 steps, the framework for motivation, the 5 quadrants, and we are definitely going to meet with you next week. So until we chat again, bye for now.